Okay, then. So, um, well, you're just arriving to the class, but then tell me, how are you today? Guys, how are you today? Remember, it is important for you to participate during the classes because you need to develop your speaking skills that are going to be like the most important ones you need to develop. And then, well, mm, going through some points, I have been just checking your homework, and well, I just noticed some small details on it. Um, so this class we're going to make our last review of the English tenses, and I'm going to use a Prezi presentation, and then you're going to just see some examples. We're going to see the explanation, and then we're going to continue with another topic. This is just only in order to clarify some aspects I saw when I was checking your homeworks. So I'm gonna start um, calling out the attendance, okay? Kevin, okay, Erika,
Present.
Marilyn,
Present.
Sandra,
Present.
okay, Alejandra,
Present.
Itzel, Itzel, okay, Daniela,
Present.
um, Alejandra,
Present.
um, Jairet, okay, Alicia,
Present.
Diana,
Present.
mm, Kayla,
Present.
Dulce,
Here.
Fernanda,
Present.
Arturo, okay, um, Gisela,
Here.
Víctor,
Here.
Miriam, is Miriam in here? Okay, as far as I know, she has some details in here. Dianetsi, okay, it's not here. Jessica.
Me saltó. Me saltó a mi
Oh,
profe.
Monica, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. Jessica.
Your teacher.
Okay. Denise. Is Denise in here? I don't think so. Um, Axel.
Present.
Mm, Victor.
Present.
Diana.
Present.
Iris. Iris is not in here. And Arturo has arrived, right? Okay. Okay. Well, as I was telling you, I just checked that there are some aspects, well, some points um, that are going to be clarified in here. In this case, as I was telling you, for the ones that send me the homeworks, um, I just noticed some details, like for example, in the simple past, you just forget to do or to use the auxiliary verb. In this case, there are some like elements that you skip. But what I could notice is that you have a prior knowledge of the tenses. And some of you said that, like, maybe the problem was with the future perfect and those tenses that are like a little more complicated. They're not complicated at all, actually, but it is because in Spanish or Mexican Spanish speakers don't use perfect tenses. So that's why, like, sometimes we just get a little lost in this part, but we're going to do like just in order to um, clarify it. Okay, is there someone else who has arrived and I don't get the attendance? Okay, then as I told you, there are 12 different tenses in English, and we're going to make the last review on it in order to clarify all the questions you have. Um, for the class, I'm going to use a presentation, and I will also send you the link in the WhatsApp group, just in order to get some extra information or to make a review if you want it, just like in a kind of consulting material. Okay. So, before we start the class, do you have any questions related to the topics, or did you identify something you don't get in the correct way, just in order to clarify? And remember, I need you to use your microphones. Maybe not all at the same time, but you need to do it. So, do you have any observations you want to add before we start in this? Alma? Does any of you have something to add? Yes or not, or you don't know, or you don't get what I'm telling you? What's the problem in here? Why are you aren't participating? Okay, so I'm gonna start this and as
Teacher,
tell me,
I have a question.
um, tell me, what is it about?
In the sentence in future, I
Mhm.
don't. Hmm?
In the sentences in future, you don't what?
I don't understand because I remember conditional simple,
The first conditional maybe.
but I don't know remember future progressive and oh, so I think it's difficult for me.
Yes, okay. So in this case, this class, as some of you said, or some of you didn't include the perfect tense as well. In this case, with the future, we're going to make a review, like the final review with all of them, and I'm going to take into account
Teacher,
the 12 tenses.
sorry, I it's
Oh,
future perfect progressive. Sorry.
yes, we're going to just make a review of it, and I'm going to just explain what are the elements and how we're going to do it. In this case, it's going to be like kind of mm, not tricky, but complicated because we need to take into account the future, the perfect part, and the progressive part. So we're going to just combine some elements that are going to make possible the existence of the sentences. And honestly, there are some aspects or some people. Oh, for some people, it's like kind of weird to use the future perfect in this case, but it is used. So it is like important for you to know all of them because, as I told you, it is like not very common to hear a sentence in that tense. But at the same time, it's like important for you to know because when you get like I don't know with some specific documents or text you need to check or you need to study, they are going to you're going to find those kind of tenses. So you need to understand how it works. Okay, how it works. Then okay, any other comment or opinion or question or explanation in here? Okay, so I'm gonna start doing it.
I think is all for me.
Okay, good. Okay. Okay, do you all see this presentation? Guys, do you all see the presentation?
No, teacher.
No? Okay, let me check then what is happening here. Do you all see it? No. Yes? Okay. So, in this case, we're going to make a review of the 12 tenses, but first let's understand what is the term. It says, what are tenses? Grammar tenses refer to the state of the verb. The state or tense of the verb explains the time of the action. Remember, we're going to just use each tense to talk about a specific action or when that specific action occur. Like for example, when we talk about routines, that it's for the present. When we talk about complete actions, when we talk about the actions that are happening at the moment of speaking. So mm in that part, we're going to understand that in order to express an idea in a certain tense, we need to make a change in the verb. That's why we're going to just go straight to the point that verbs are going to be like the most important thing in here, and that's the main part of this presentation. It says there are three major tenses in English. This includes the past, the present, and the future, and each of these tenses can explain an event that occurred in a past, an event that occurred in the present, or events that will occur in the future. Okay, but we need a specific context in order to use the tenses again. So we're going to just need some information related to the specific moment in which the action occurs, just in order to know what tense we need to use. And that's why we always use time expressions. Like, for example, if I say, today I went to the school. So, or like, yesterday I bought a house. I will buy a house next year. I will buy a house. So next year I will buy a house. Okay, so we're going to just play with the kind of expressions. So as we have past, present, and future, and each one of these three tenses or three forms has different um, examples. Or like for example, we have when we talk about the past, we have the simple one, the continuous one, and the perfect continuous. So in this case, the general idea is that the past is used to talk about specific actions or that occurred in the past, that occur and finish in the past. So in this case, we're going to talk about complete actions. We're going to talk about an hypothesis, things that are imagined rather than true. So in this case, we're going to talk about something we believe, but it's like maybe not true. And in here, there are four types. The simple one, the simple past or is used to talk about a complete action. That is what I mentioned before. Complete action in a time before now. In this case, it's a complete action, but because it is started in the past and finished in the past, so we're going to say like, or we need to specify when something occurred. For example, I'm going to say, yesterday I eat chocolate in my house. In this case, we have some examples in here that I would like you to copy, or in this case, just pay attention to the presentation, and then I'm going to just send you the link, just in order um, to do some, well, in order for you to check and to do some exercises in this part. Okay. So in this case, the examples are Johnny Cabot sailed to America in. Who can read the date, guys? Could you read the date? Which year is in here? Who can help me to read the date? Guys. Okay, so Erika, can you please read the date of the first sentence examples? Okay, it says John Cabot sailed to America in 1498. My father died last year. He lived in Fiji in 1966, 76. And it says in here, we crossed the channel yesterday. So if you notice, for example, the structure is the subject, the main verb, that in this case we're going to find uh, the regular one, sail, die, live, crossed, and because of the ending, these are regular verbs, and then we need the complement that, or the part in which we explains when the event happened, the complement. Okay, do you have any questions so far? Guys, can I just go to the next slide? Okay, then the past continuous. In this case, we're going to talk about unfinished or incomplete actions in the past. Remember for well, the simple is to talk about complete actions. In this case, as it is continuous or progressive, we're going to understand that the event was happening at some specific time, but at the same time, we're going to say like, um, sometimes we can express when it finished, or sometimes we can express that some other event could like interrupt the first one that we're going to have in here. It expresses an unfinished or an incomplete action in the past. For example, they were waiting for the bus when the accident happened, and that's the case. So here in the first sentence, we can observe that part. We have two different events in the past, but for example, the first one is they were waiting for the bus. That could be the first sentence, and then we use a connector when, and then we just link with other past event. But in this case, we can say like, for example, so that's why in the continuous tense sometimes an event can be interrupted by other event. In this case, we're going to just say this: they were waiting for the bus when the accident happened. So in this case, we're taking into account two different tenses that it's possible to do in English actually. And we can also say a lot of more ideas or more complex ideas. So in this case, remember, we can use connectors. In this case, the connector is when. And then here we have other example that is going to be the same. Caroline was skiing when she broke her leg. And at the same time, it's important for you to know that we can start different, or we can just exchange the order of the sentence, for example, and we can express the same idea. And that's why we have in here. So the first part or the first two examples in this are starting with the present, well, the past continuous, and finishes or finish with the simple past. Okay, they were waiting for the bus when the accident occurred. At the same time, we're going to just exchange the order of the sentence, and we're going to express the same idea. When the fire started, I was watching television. In this case, guys, it's important to observe some specific elements that you don't need to forget. So, when we are just, for example, in the first starting the sentence with the past continuous, we are using when as a connector, that in Spanish means cuando, and that word or that connector help us to link with the following sentence that it's in simple past. But in this case, when we start with the connector, we need to add a comma in or at the end of the first one or between the sentences. For example, when we arrive, we need to add a column in here after arrive, and we need to say he was having a bath in order to connect the ideas. In this case, in the presentation, is not like taken into account that part, but you need to do it. Okay, so when you need to exchange the order, remember that if you start with when, you need to add a column in here in this part. For example, when we arrived, comma, he was having a bath. When the fire started, comma, I was watching television. Just in order to understand that the ideas are connected. Okay, so as the link here, or as the linking word is in here, we need to add a comma in here just in order to understand that the following sentence is also linked to the first one. Then we have past perfect tense in here. The past perfect tense is verb tense used to talk about actions that were completed before some point in the past. Okay, so in this case, we're going to talk about complete actions, but we need to say that they finish in a specific moment or before at some point in the past. Like for example, in here, I did not have any cash because I had lost my purse. In this case, is what I said. In Spanish, we tend to say everything in simple past. We don't say, for example, in Spanish, we don't say he ido a la escuela. We say fui a la escuela. We don't say he desayunado. We said desayuné. So that's why sometimes it is like tricky in order or to us to understand the perfect tenses, but it's not like very difficult way. So if we translate, for example, into Spanish, the first example, in this case, again, we are using two different sentences. We are going to say, I did not have any cash because I had lost my purse. No tenía dinero porque había perdido mi bolsa. Mm. Okay, in this part we're going to say, I have been to Mexico once before. Había ido a México una vez antes. In this case, we're going to say an example that is the third conditional. The conditionals are something we're going to just go, we're going to study in the following classes. But in this case, we have the structure. If I had seen him, I would have told him the news. And that's why this sentence is very funny because many people said that in English, well, in Spanish we say el hubiera no existe, but in English it does exist. So if we just translate it into Spanish just in order to get a better idea, if I had seen him, I would have told him the news. Si lo hubiera visto, le hubiera dicho las noticias. Okay, but in this case, we're going to go through the conditionals later on the course. So it says before he did his homework, he had stayed after school for help. Okay, so in this case, we're going to just understand that in these examples, they are mixing two different sentences just in order to clarify the point that something occurs before a specific time. But we can also say, like, for example, we just can take the perfect part or the perfect tense part in which I had lost my purse. Había perdido mi bolsa. Well, in this case, this is correct. Uh, he had stayed after school for help. Él se había quedado en la escuela, se había quedado después de la escuela para ayudar. Okay. So, the past perfect continuous tense. In this case, we're going to talk about an action that started in the past, continue until another time in the past. Like for example, we're going to talk about something that started, but at the same time continue. So it's not finished, but we are going to just get to a specific point in the past. So in this case, the examples: had you been waiting long before the taxi arrived? Have you been waiting long before the taxi arrived? ¿Habías estado esperado, um, habías estado esperando mucho antes de que llegara el taxi? We have been trying to open the door. Habíamos estado tratando de abrir la puerta. For 5 minutes when Jane found her key. Ajá, habíamos estado tratando de abrir la puerta por 5 minutos cuando Jen encontró su llave. It had been raining hard for several hours and the streets were very wet. Había estado lloviendo por muchas horas y las calles estaban muy mojadas. Her friend had been thinking of calling the police when she walked in. Su amigo había estado pensando en llamar a la policía cuando ella entró. Okay? Do you have any questions so far? Okay, the present, that is like the most common thing we already know. The present tenses are like the most simple ones. So the first we just learn. In this case, as I told you before, the simple present tense is just to talk about habits, unchanging situations, general truths or facts, or appointments or routines in this case. For example, he goes to school every morning. She understands English. It mixes the sand and the water. He tries very hard, and we can also say, you study English twice a week. You go to school from Monday to Friday. Okay? So in this case, we also need the subject, and remember, if it is the third person of the personal pronouns, we need to add s, es, or EES. Okay, so in this case, we're going to exchange some other rules. In here, we stole them, but at the same time, we just need to be careful. Later on, I will also send you a document in which the rules of the simple present for the third person are um, established. Okay. Present continuous. As I told you, this is going to be the only tense that will work as well. This and the continuous tenses will work as the same as in Spanish. In this case, we need the subject, the verb be, ser o estar, and the main verb in with the ing ending. For example, I am going. Bernie is looking for the latest brochure. Do you know what brochure? What's the meaning of brochure? Guys, in your in your major or in your area, you're going to use a lot of this word. Do you know what is brochure? The one who tells me the meaning by right now, not because you need to look, but the one that tells me what brochure means right now, you're going to earn 1 point for your test. So, do you know the meaning? Guys, Victor, Hugo, can you tell me the meaning of brochure? Okay. So, brochure means folleto. Then the present perfect. In this case, we're going to talk about actions that began in the past and still continue in the present. In this case, David had worked alongside of two world's final scientists for the field of etymology. We can also say, I have worked in this company for 2 years. She has baked a cake. Okay, so remember, we need the subject, the auxiliary verb have, and the main verb in past participle. The present continuous, or the present perfect continuous tense. In this case, we're going to go like, um, in this case, um, it talks about, we have to understand that it had two different uses. Like, for example, uh, a continuous activity that began in the past and continues into the present, or a continuous activity that began in the past but has now finished. So we're going to say like the just in order to use the present perfect, or we can say about something that started in the past but is still happening in the present, or something that started in the past and recently finishes in the present. For example, in here we have I have been going I have been going to school 5 years. Amanda has been relying on pay rise to pay her students' loan. Okay. We can also say
Here,
I have been playing. Tell me.
for example, is you have been dancing,
Yes. In this case, okay. Tell me.
dancing, dancing. So,
In
in
okay. In this case, we have like, for example, the names of two different tenses, perfect, and then we have continuous, right? So the difficult part, and if you just learn it and if you notice, it's not difficult because, for example, let's analyze the parts. We need to say that it's perfect, so I have the auxiliary verb have, right? As my tense is a perfect one, I need to use have or had, but we need to add it. Necesitamos utilizar el verbo auxiliar have, ¿ok? Porque estamos hablando de un tiempo perfecto. So, perfect tenses said that we need the auxiliary verb have, and then we have a verb that should be in participle, okay? So, but at the same time, if we go with the continuous tense, the continuous tenses said that we need the verb be and the main verb in base form plus going to. Las reglas dicen que para los tiempos perfectos necesitamos have y luego un verbo en pasado participio, pero también la regla de los tiempos continuos nos dicen que necesitamos el verbo to be y el verbo principal en forma base con la terminación ing, ¿cierto? So what we're doing here in order to complete the sentences or to follow the rules in this case, we're going to use subject, the verb have, that is the auxiliary of the present perfect. Then we're going to use another verb in participle, in past participle. But at the same time, we're going to use this in ing. Entonces, lo que vamos a hacer es utilizar el have, que es la parte del participio, y nos pide un verbo en participio después del tiempo perfecto, del auxiliar have. Lo que vamos a hacer es utilizar al verbo que antecede la siguiente regla. Entonces, vamos a usar el verbo to be para el presente continuo, pero lo vamos a utilizar en forma de participio. Entonces ponemos I have been y luego el verbo principal lo ponemos en continuo para que así podamos cumplir las reglas. La primera regla o la regla del presente perfecto dice que necesitamos have y un verbo en participio. Y luego la otra regla del continuo nos dice que necesitamos el verbo to be más un verbo con la terminación ing. Entonces lo que hacemos es tomar el have, el verbo to be lo tomamos como participio y que se cumple la regla, que está el verbo to be presente, y luego ponemos la partícula going, o en este caso el verbo en participio más la terminación ing. ¿Ok? Y así es como cumplimos las reglas.
Profe, ¿podría ser we have been drinking since last night?
Yes, in this case, we have been drinking. Yes, we have been drinking since last night. Yes. Hemos estado bebiendo desde anoche. Yes, we can say it. We can say that. Okay, but remember, in this case, we just need to accomplish or to follow the rules of the two sentences or the two tenses in just one sentence. That's why we have been going. Okay, is it clear so far? ¿Está claro hasta ahora, chicos? Okay, so let's go with the future. Okay, so let's go with the future. In this case, the future tense expresses a future event or a future state of being. For example, I will jump. In this case, we're going to take future with will because it's the tense. We have some other different ways. We have some other two different ways of express ideas in the future, but they are going to be like for specific cases. And that's why we're going to focus on next class how to express ideas of the future. So what I need you to do during these days until Friday is to study, for example, the structures of the future with will. So let's start. Future with will or future tense. The future tense expresses a future event or a future state of being. For example, I will jump in the lake. It's something you will do. Yo saltaré al lago. I will be happy. It's something like you want to be in the future. Yo seré feliz. And again, we have future simple, future continuous, future perfect, and perfect continuous. So let's go in this part. The future simple or the simple future is used to talk about actions that will occur in the future. It says in here, I will go, for example, yo iré. But we can also make complete sentences by saying, I will go to the school in 2 weeks. Iré a la escuela en 2 semanas. We will celebrate your birthday by flying to New York. We will celebrate your birthday by flying to New York. Celebraremos tu cumpleaños volando o yendo a New York, a Nueva York. Um, okay, so in this case, the future with will expresses the idea that we decide we want something to happen, but we're not sure if that event will happen. Maybe will happen and maybe not. Okay, that's why we have different situations in which we are going to use going to, for example, to express ideas about the future. But in this case, we're going to just focus in will. Next class, we're going to take the 3 different ways in which we're going to talk about the future. So we need the subject, the auxiliary verb will, and then the main verb plus the complement. I will go, subject, will, and verb. Okay? Remember, you always need subject, will, the main verb in base form because will is it's a modal verb in this case. Okay, present or future continuous. In this case, we're going to just do the same thing. The future progressive tense is used for an action for an ongoing action that will occur in the future, something that we can say that is going to be happening at a specific moment in the future. For example, the Moscow State Circus will be performing in Centrum for the next 3 weeks. In this case, this is a fact, or well, it is pretended as a fact because maybe they just have their own schedule. Okay. In this case, we're going to translate it. El Circo Estatal de Moscú se estará presentando en Cheltenham las siguientes 3 semanas. ¿Ok? Entonces, se estará presentando. That's what we're going to say. I will be playing soccer next month. Estaré jugando fútbol el próximo mes. I will be working next week. Estaré trabajando la siguiente semana. So we need to use, for example, again, will. And as we are going to use, again, the verb be plus the main verb and continuous tense, we're going to use the base form of the verb be. The Moscow State Circus will be performing. My mother will be celebrating her birthday, for example, okay? So in this case, after will, the following verb should be in base form, and in this case, as we are using the continuous, should be the verb be in base form and the main verb in or with the ing ending. Okay. And future perfect tense. In this case, we're going to say the future perfect tense is used to describe an action that will have been completed at some point in the future. For example, I will have gone. I will have gone, or for example, in this case, by the time you arrive, we will have finished the meal and the speeches. Para cuando llegues, habremos terminado la comida y los discursos. So if we translate this, by the time you arrive, we will have finished the meals and the speeches. Para cuando llegues, habremos terminado la comida y los discursos. And in this case, we are going to have like subject, the auxiliary verb will, the auxiliary verb have, the main verb in past participle, and the complement. Okay? So, subject, auxiliary verb of future, that in this case is will, auxiliary verb of the perfect tense that it's have. Okay, we will have finished the meal and the speeches. Or for example, I will have buy a house in 10 years or in 4 years. Habré comprado una casa en 5 años. That's like a kind of a plan or an idea I have, but I don't know if it is going to be accomplished or not. It's like my plan, but I don't know if it is a reality or if I will do it. In perfect, future perfect continuous. This is like what you just don't get quite well. The future perfect progressive tense is for an ongoing action that will be completed at some specific time in the future. As well, we're going to use, but we're going to use future. For example, I will have been going. I will have been going on holidays next year. In July next year, you will have been studying for 3 years. En julio del próximo año, tú habrás estado estudiando por 3 años. Okay? So it's going to be like something that it's not going to, or is to talk about. For example, you're studying right now, but next year you will be still studying, but you need to specify how long you have been studying. In this case, in July next year, you will have been studying for 3 years. En julio del próximo año, tú habrás estado estudiando por 3 años. O como lo podríamos entender en español, o como muchas personas lo dicen, en julio del otro año haces 3 años estudiando. Por eso les digo que no siempre vamos a entender las estructuras porque casi siempre tratamos de usar algo más simple. But in this case, the proper way to say is like taking into account this example. En julio del próximo año, tú habrás estado estudiando por 3 años, ¿sale? Que sería una forma más propia de expresar, aunque en español podemos expresarlo de diferentes maneras. Es por eso que de repente se nos hace un poquito difícil o complicado. Do you have any questions so far? Guys, do you have questions? I need you to tell me yes, teacher, or no, teacher, or I don't get anything, teacher. So better tell me something, please.
No, teacher.
Okay, is it all correct?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, good. Well, the time is finished. So what I'm going to do is to send you the link of this presentation to the WhatsApp group, just in order for you to have like a resource in order to check for future activities. But at the same time, I need you to take one of the sentences of the examples in here. The first sentence of the examples in each slide, and then you need to just rewrite it into a negative part and into a question, okay? Su tarea va a ser tomar el primer ejemplo de las diapositivas o de los tiempos y sí, reescribirlo de forma negativa y en forma de pregunta, ¿ok?
Profe, ¿cuáles diapositivas?
Bueno, la presentación que estaban viendo.
Es que no se veía.
No me aparecía ninguna presentación.
¿No?
No,
No,
no se veía.
Es que yo les la presentación. Dijeron que sí.
De hecho, no,
Es
de
que al
hecho,
principio sí se veía, pero después le mandaron mensaje que
sí.
no se veía.
Ok. Bueno, de todos modos les voy a pasar el link, por favor.
Mejor,
Bueno.
gracias, teacher.
Entiendo. Ajá, les voy a pasar el link y ok, no, bueno, les voy a pasar el link y van bien, bueno, ven la presentación y van tomando
Y ya de ahí hacemos la
cuenta
tarea.
las partes. Ajá, de ahí toman la primera oración y hacen lo que les pedí, por favor.
Sí,
Es
teacher.
que, chicos, ¿ven por qué les digo que es importante que hablen?
Es que sí le mandaron mensaje
Les
de que no
pregunté
se
si se veía.
veía. Es que al principio sí se veía, pero
Ajá,
después
pero
ya no.
me entiendo. Pues es que cuando esto suceda, por favor, díganme por audio. O sea, teacher, I can see your presentation, or your presentation is not being seen anymore, ¿ok?
Sí,
O
teacher,
sea, necesito que me
perdón.
expliquen, pero es que, o sea, por ejemplo, por mensaje no me notifica, como estoy compartiendo la pantalla según yo, no me notifica cuando llega el mensaje. Entonces, por eso no vi que ya no se veía la presentación.
Perdón, teacher.
Pero sí es importante que entonces me digan, ¿sale? Teacher, no se ve. ¿Ok? Well, thank you for your attention, and I'm going to send the link just by right now to the WhatsApp group, okay? Okay, then.